one of them spawned the zombie, the ghoul. Alright, this one also spawned it in. And so far the game doesn't even crash, so maybe I managed to actually give you a proper tip. Hello everyone, PLG here, and welcome to another episode of Diablo 2 modding. In this episode we will be making a monster spawn minions for itself. In my case, I will be making the Ghoul Lords from Act 2 spawn ghouls for themselves, so that their name makes a lot more sense right now. So, of course, for today I've already prepared the files we'll be using. So, of course, Monstats are beloved, and also levels, because we need to place the monster somewhere. And also Monseq. Well, we'll see what we will have to do with the monster sequences. But for now, let's go to Monstats. And first in order, we need to search for our monster. And I just so happen to know that the Ghoul Lord's ID is Vampire, because they are called vampires in the game files for some reason. And it just so happens that Ghoul Lords are the ID of Vampire 1. So let's go through this specific monster a bit to the right until we hit the column called Spawn. The column called Spawn determines what kind of monster is spawned by this monster, pretty much. So in here we place the ID of the monster we want to be spawned. So in our case it's gonna be zombie 3. This is the ID of the ghouls, which is really not hard to find, it's almost at the beginning of the file. But then we need to set spawn X and spawn Y, which are the spawn coordinates in relation to the spawner monster. We should set it to 0 and 0, because if you set it to something else, I've had some experiences with the monsters spawning in walls and crashing the game, which isn't really a great, I'd say, outcome of the spawning. Now, here we have spawn mode being the animation with which the spawned monster is, well, spawned. So in the case of our ghouls, we should set it to S1. And you may be wondering, how in the world can zombie 3, the ghouls, use, well, S1, because normally you would think that they do not use an S1 animation, so the special one animation. But actually they do use it. It's the animation of them going from the ground, like, you know, crawling out of the ground. And as for where this animation is used, well, you'll have to see in the video, because I will of course mention it. But let's go further, because this actually is not everything we have to do here, because actually the Vampire 1 needs also a skill to spawn those, well, ghouls. So let's go further to, of course, the skill columns, our favorite. In here we have, of course, the fireball, the firewall, and so on and so on. And yeah, that's pretty funny that the Ghoul Lords actually have some kind of, I guess, internet protection. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to change one of those skills into the nest skill. The nest skill, nest, not est. The nest skill being the skill that allows them to spawn the zombies, or pretty much anything you want them to spawn. If you want, you can even make them spawn like Andariels, which would be pretty funny, and you know, maybe I'll leave it for the end of the video. But let's set also his skill level to 1, because honestly I didn't test like if how would it work with like higher levels of this skill, but 1 works fine, and let's leave it at that. And now we can go to testing, except for, of course, setting them to spawn in, like, for instance, the Bloodmoor. Second, alright. So let's try it out and we'll see if they work. course, let's just quickly kind of skip a bit of it all. And let's go straight to the Blanwer. Alright, we're here, and here he is in all of his glory. You see this? He spawned here, but there is a very little problem. As you may see, he became brain dead. Literally. And also the mercenary has quite the big problem of hitting him. That is because actually, try guessing what happened right here. I'll give you a couple of seconds. If you guessed D, then you guessed correctly. He absolutely got stuck because he didn't leave the S1 the spell cast animation. So he pretty much spawned the monster and didn't know what else to do. So what we need to do now is to make him like snap out of it immediately after he spawns the zombie. And for that we will be using monster sequences. So let's just go out of the game and go to Monseq. And in here we just scroll down. We scroll down because I have prepared something. You may remember this. This is of course the Wraith Race sequence we used a couple of episodes back to fix the animation of the Wraiths. But now we need to add a couple of rows. In our case, we'll be adding 16 new rows. Why 16? Because the animation, the spellcast animation of the vampires has 15 frames. And after those 15 frames, we need him to return to his idle frame. So for this, we go with sec underscore, let's say it, zombie raise, and we of course copy it to every single thing right here. For the main 15 first animation frames, we go with SC. Let's copy it and paste it almost everywhere. Then we go with from frame 0 to like frame 15. So 15? I think 15. Yes, I think 15. Of course, I completely miscalculated the whole thing, but I guess that's not much of a problem, is it? No, wait a second. I didn't miscalculate. I of course completely forgot the 0 at the beginning. So the last one we actually set it to NU and change the frame to 0. That is a small mistake on my part because I forgot that it had to be changed. Okay, so what now? Now we of course set all of the EOL columns to 0 so that our file doesn't leak out everywhere. And we choose one of the frames to have an event. An event in our case of 4, so pretty much if I remember, it's spell casting. So on this frame the monster will use its skill pretty much. I'll put it on frame 4 because why not? And I could of course analyze it a bit more. We could go into like Dr. Test or something, but I guess we can make this episode slightly shorter because it can be shorter. It doesn't have to be very long. It's a pretty easy thing we do today. And very important thing, we need to give him at the last frame, the idle frame, single idle frame, an event of 0, so that he will pretty much snap out of his whole thing. And now, after we save this file, let's grab sequence zombie race and give it as his skill 1 mode. So he will use this sequence when casting this skill. So let's go check this out in the game. Right. Now this mercenary will absolutely be giving me problems right now, but let's ignore this. Right, so one of them spawned the zombie, the ghoul. Alright, this one also spawned it in. And as you may see, he quickly steps out of this whole, well, I guess, hallucination. I don't know how to say it now. You see, and even the mercenary doesn't really have much of a problem at shooting him. And so far the game doesn't even crash, so maybe I managed to actually give you a proper tip, because I didn't even manage to fix it in my mod yet. That's just a small thing I wanted to add. Okay, so now I've mentioned before that the animation for those ghouls is used somewhere in the game. And if you let's get next to one of those Ghoul Lords and look at him spawning in the... Right, only if my mercenary doesn't blind them. You see? They're like crawling out of the ground. Where is this used? Well, I'll show you right now. Where is it used? Right, let's go back to the camp, and actually we'll be walking for a while, so I guess you can stay a while and listen. So I have this plan of making next tutorials in, like, I'd say, better graphics. And I don't mean D2R, because that's a whole other beast of modding. I mean with like some other mods that will be, I guess, cooperating with this whole tutorial. So not only will it have some graphical changes, which honestly I'm not sure if right now I'm on like the graphic mod. I may be on the graphics mod. I think I am. I do not remember if I put it on this tutorial instance or not. But wait a second. What did I want to talk about? Oh yes, I will also maybe adding a mod called base mod to our tutorials, because it's a very useful like mod for just overall animodder. It's useful because it adds stuff like, you know, automatic coin grabbing and stuff like this, and I just think it's really cool and helps with to be like, I guess, well, pretty much a base for also other mods. So of course I completely forgot I'm using a modded version, which is this tutorial version also uses some modded things for treasure classes, which will be I will cover soon. It may actually even be on the next episode. But what I wanted to talk about here is actually Bloodraven, because she is the one who uses the zombie spawning animation. If we could pull her out of this whole mess and look at her. Of course, it couldn't have been otherwise. So yes, pretty much Bloodraven spawns those Hungry Dead using this S1 animation. So they crawl out of the ground, which, you know, makes pretty much absolute sense since we're fighting her on the graveyard. So yes, that's actually what I wanted to tell you in here. And yeah, pretty much probably in the next episode I'll actually talk about whatever is happening right here, which is editing treasure classes. I don't think I've mentioned this before or talked about this before on this channel, so, and it's a pretty useful thing, especially when you're modding. So yes, it's very useful because it allows you to test a lot of things like unique items and stuff like this. So yeah, pretty much that would be everything for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Hope I've helped you out with this whole thing. And yes, I hope you'll have a lot of fun while modding this game. And I guess see you in the next episode. Bye!